not be recorded as part of the meeting, but the video will and the audio will. And so at this time, I'm going to share my screen with you. And Mr. Bentman, if you could come off video, make your video live. And if you can just give me a thumbs up if you can see the Owen J. Roberts webpage. Thank you so much. And so you can see here on the Owen J. Roberts webpage, there are 3 new banners on the screen, one being summer fall reopening where you can find our plans, one being the Cyber Academy information, and one being the blended plan. So if you were to click on the blended plan, you will find there the dates that we are presenting and more details. So I would like to share with you the presentation that we have today for the blended plan. So some of you may know this plan as hybrid, and you can call it hybrid. We're not calling it hybrid because we don't want to confuse those of you who have a high school student, because they do have an option for something called hybrid. That's why we're calling it a blended option, basically blending between your child being in person and your child being remote or virtual part of the time. And so I spoke about some of these norms while we were waiting for the meeting to start. We are going to focus this meeting to be mindful of your time on the Owen J. Roberts blended learning plan. We hope that you gain a better understanding of what your child's schedule and what structure that would look like, as well as the content. Again, if you have any questions, we're here to answer them. If we do not get to your question today, please include it in the chat and we will include that in our frequently asked questions. And if you have questions that are specific to your child, please reach out to one of the 5 principals, specifically the principal of your child's elementary school. Again, we had this yesterday. I know that all of us will be respectful. We will all be productive. And again, we're here to help you and answer any questions that you may have. So again, you may have seen this in some other presentations that we've had. Maybe you watched a school board meeting. There are going to be 3 pathways to reopening school. There's a traditional option. That's that 5-day-a-week option, which at this point is off the table. The reason it's off the table is because currently, if you use that gold standard from the CDC, they're recommending 6 feet of distance. And so 6 feet means nose to nose. So side by side, the students have to be 6 feet apart, as well as front to back. So in our elementary school classrooms, we can fit between 13 to 15 desks per classroom. And as you know, our class sizes are above 13 to 15. So the traditional option right now is not on the table unless the guidelines from our leading authorities change. The other side is the OJR Cyber Academy, and this we will be presenting at 1 o'clock, unless Mr. Bentman corrects me on that, but I believe our Cyber Academy, Mr. Bentman, session is at 1 o'clock. And if not, give me a thumbs down. And then finally, we're going to be talking about the blended options. So as parents, right now, you have 2 options for your child for reopening of schools. One is a Cyber Academy, one is a blended option. The Cyber Academy you do need to register for by August 10th, and we have sent out that link a few times to you via email at this time. All right, so let's look at an overview of the blended option. And so the instructional needs of this upcoming school year is that first and foremost, we want your child to learn, but we also want to be mindful of the health and safety of our children. The health of our children, not just physically, but also mentally. So you'll notice that in this plan, we do have social emotional learning throughout. We want to make sure that our students have that sense of connectedness, because anything that you read right now for adults and for children, the situation we're in, we aren't able to connect as well as we would hope. Flexibility for students. What that basically means is flexibility with attendance. So the attendance policies will be relaxed. If you ask the question, what will they be? We don't know yet. We're working on it. But there will be flexibility with attendance. There will also be flexibility with the fluidity between your choices. So for example, as a parent, if you want to start your child in the blended option because you want them to get back into the school building, in the school setting, you can do so. But say a few weeks in, you decide that your child really needs to move to our cyber academy, you can do that. It's fluid between the two options. The blended option will be taught by Owen J. Roberts School District teachers. Students will attend with that social distancing, or we would say physical distancing requirement, because like I said, 6 feet nose to nose, side to side, and front to back. Therefore, we'll have smaller groups. We will have technology in our classrooms and while at home. So students will be using potentially iPads or Chromebooks in school and whatever you have at home. And then students, when they are in person, they may maintain their school schedule. So they're getting their supports, they're attending specials, they're engaging in lunch and recess. What that looks like specifically will be guided by the plan that we have. So Mr. Bettman, can you give me a thumbs up? Can you see my screen? Can you see the overview?
I can. I didn't know if you wanted to share it to make it bigger. On the screen there.
Okay.
The present. I'm sorry. Present mode. The present. I'm sorry. Go back and the present button just to make it a little bigger for
Wonderful.
people.
Okay, so let me try that again. I apologize if that was not conducive to viewing. Okay, Mr. Bettman, is that better?
Yeah, that'll work. You keep going. That'll work. Thanks.
Okay. And so you'll see in the elementary plan that we will have a blend, again, using that word blended, a blend of sessions. We will be moving between synchronous, which in case you're wondering, you're gonna hear these words often in the education world nowadays. Synchronous basically means it's a live lesson. Your child is in a live lesson with a staff member in Owen J. Roberts School District. Whereas the asynchronous sessions, that is where your child is working independently in some way. They could even be working with a peer if they choose to do that, but it's asynchronous in that the teacher or the staff member is not live with your child. So just to set out the definitions there. There will be a mix of whole group, guided instruction, as well as independent practice on, again, using this blended plan. When we look at what we have here in front of you, you will see that we have a schedule laid out Monday through Friday. And so you'll see a group A, a group B, and a group C. And so what we learned yesterday, the principals in our sessions together, is people would ask, how's my child in group A, or group B, or group C? And so at this time, we're looking to split the alphabet by the child's last name so that they are in group A or group B. We will make individual decisions for families who may have childcare concerns, and so you can contact your child's principal for that, so we won't get into the details. Group C, that is for students who receive special education services either through an IEP or a 504, and so they may attend all 4 days. Again, that will be a conversation that you have with your child's principal and or special education case manager or school counselor. So they may attend up to those 4 days. The details of the week. So for sake of argument, I'm going to pretend Mr. Bettman is one of our students. His last name begins with the letter B. And so he would at this point be in group A. So Mr. Bettman is in class on Monday and Tuesday. He's going through a typical day. Again, that is including his core subject areas. Maybe he receives some reading support. He would be working with his reading support teachers. He would be going to his special area classes and also having lunch and recess. When I say do things like go to the special area classes, again, you'd have to refer to our health and safety plan. In the event that guidelines change, students may not go. The special area teacher may need to come to the classroom.
Ms. Seeley, may I interrupt for a second, please?
Please do.
So as you're presenting, could you scroll down and click on the slides? We are not seeing the slides that you were referring to, please. So you would refer to the schedule.
Okay, so you can't see the elementary plan blended option?
No, we are still seeing the slide that says overview.
Okay, let me try this again. Folks, I do apologize.
Technology is being a bit persnickety today, Ms.
Right.
Seelig.
But I will say for everyone watching, because I do keep an eye on what we have going on in other places, that is not going to be indicative of your child's experience. I know some of you may think that is the case. Again, grace and understanding, we greatly appreciate it for ourselves as well as for our teachers and staff. Can you see that now?
Thank you, Ms. Seelig. We can see it says elementary plan. It is the weekly schedule. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, thank you. Okay, so going back, so that group A, Mr. Bettman's in group A, he is going to school all day, Monday and Tuesday. Wednesday, that is where your student will be learning at home. They will have a blend that day of synchronous. Remember, that means live. They're checking in with their teachers, whether it be a whole group, say class meeting, or some small group or whole group work with their teacher. Think of, say, like a reading group. And then the rest of their day, depending on when they're meeting with their teachers in live or synchronous sessions, they would be working asynchronously. They may have a reading assignment, such as reading a book and doing stop and jots. They may be working on Accelerate, which we'll get to that soon. Thursday, that is a day where, again, Mr. Bettman's in group A. So what that looks like on Thursday, you can see at the top there, remote learning. Now, remote learning does not mean Mr. Bettman's in the Cyber Academy. There's a lot of confusion about that. Remote learning means that Mr. Bettman still has the same teacher at North Coventry, but he is working at home and that teacher is overseeing it. And I'm very careful to say overseeing it because the teacher is teaching the students in front of him or her at this point. So Mr. Bettman's teacher will be available for a live classroom meeting, for example, maybe once or twice a day. But the rest of the day, your child would be assigned Accelerate and other Owen J. Roberts School District curriculum independent work. Will they sometimes need some guidance from you? Yes. Will we do our best on that group A day to guide Mr. Bettman so he knows how to access the technology and follow teacher instructions? Yes. So every child is different. Some may need more help than others, but we want to be very transparent with you that on Thursday and Friday, Mr. Bettman would be doing some live work with the teacher for classroom meetings, but most of that day he'd be working on independent assignments. At this time, Mr. Oswald, are there any questions based on anything that I've shared so far?
Ms. Seelig, there have been some questions, particularly around Wednesday. We said that all students are home remote learning. So there were some questions that came up around that. Could you talk to us a little bit in terms of what students would be doing on that day and what our staff would be doing on that day, please?
Sure. Let's focus first on students. That's why we're here. So students on Wednesday. So for example, if Mr. Oswald is my teacher and he says we're going to have a class meeting today at 9 o'clock and it will be from say 9 to 9:30, then as a student, I'm going to log into that live session and we're going to have a classroom meeting, build connections, answer any questions, review maybe any of the work that we have done this week together. Mr. Oswald may say to me that he wants me to meet again, say at 10:30, from 10:30 to 11 o'clock. We're going to get together in a book group and discuss the reading that we're doing, and maybe it's 4 of my classmates and myself. All of those details of that schedule, and I know as parents you're craving a schedule, but all those details are still in the works. So we don't know for sure when that class meeting is. We don't know for sure when that guided reading schedule or group meeting will be, but your child will have some of their day in synchronous live instruction. Some of their day will be working on independent work. And so you can expect from your child that they will have to dial in a Google Meet session with their teachers, but you can also expect them to be doing some independent work. Again, schedule's not determined. Now, you also asked about staff. Staff that day will, obviously, be logging in synchronously with your child when they're conducting class meetings, they're holding small groups, and that could be classroom teachers, it could be special area teachers, it could be special ed, title teachers, reading support, it could be anyone, it could be therapies too. Maybe your child receives mental health or any related services such as occupational therapy, speech and language. So that could take place during that time. We could also be holding our meetings during that time with parents for, say, IEP meetings, GIEPs, 504s, and more. Teachers during that time, besides working with students, a good part of that day, they will also be working in a professional development model whereby they need to meet with their grade level colleagues. They need to continue the professional development because this is a change. And in O&J, we come to expect a robust, individualized learning environment, all differentiated for our students. So we want to make sure that we're providing our teachers with ample time. Truth be told, in a normal school day, all students are getting off the bus or entering our schools at 8:15. Because we have to stagger our arrival, then students may be coming earlier than 8:15. Teachers are in by 7:50. We may need to use that time so that our students are safely physically distanced. And so then we're losing that morning collaboration and professional development time. Similarly, at the end of the day, if there's any time, which there typically isn't, but if there were some time, we're going to need to meet, which we won't have, again, because we're going to have to stagger our dismissal for physical distancing reasons. We really need to keep our teachers, our students safe and healthy. And so we have to keep that in mind. So Wednesday, hopefully that answers everyone's question. You have an idea what the students are doing as well as what our staff will be doing on that day. It's blended, right?
Great. So Ms. Seeley, I'm looking for patterns and themes that emerge from the questions.
Sure.
And there's been a few questions regarding kindergarten, what their day looks like in this model.
Yeah, so kindergarten parents, I've needed to use a visual myself because it's almost like you're having a half. So your child would still have a half day model. So let's use Mr. Bettman again. Suppose he's in kindergarten. He would attend Monday and Tuesday. He would only attend for the morning. He's in a half day of school. And he's in cohort A. Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, he would have remote learning at home, possibly on that Wednesday, be checking in with his kindergarten teacher for, say, a class meeting. Maybe he's meeting with his teacher to go over some of his writing. But he is in school in the morning on Monday and Tuesday, and then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we can guarantee that he's going to have some remote learning at home. As a kindergarten parent, please know that our teachers and Accelerate, they do speak well to kindergarten. They get that developmental approach. And so our teacher leaders, our curriculum supervisors, and Accelerate will be doing their best to make sure that your child can do some of this work independently. And Dr. Monahan will talk some about that when we get to the Accelerate. Conversely, if your child is in AM kindergarten and they are in cohort B, then they would be learning at home Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. They would be learning in school in the morning on Thursday and Friday. PM kinder, it's the same thing. So PM students on Monday and Tuesday, if you're in group A, you're coming just the afternoon for Monday and Tuesday. You're learning at home Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. If you're in cohort B, then you're learning in the afternoon in school only on Thursday and Friday. I hope I explained that.
You did, Ms. Seeley, thank you so much. And just for the sake of time, the last theme of questions that came up regarding this plan before you move on is to elaborate on what Group C looks like, particularly around gifted and who would qualify to be in that Group C, please.
That's a great question. And so students who are in Group C have an individualized education plan, meaning they are qualifying for special education services and supports. That includes related services, bless you, or it is for a 504, which is a different type of plan. It's a service agreement. And so students in that group may attend up to 4 days. Reason being is because they may need extra time with their service provider, be it related services like a speech and language pathologist, a special education teacher. If they attend all 4 days, those 2 additional days that they're attending beyond what some of our other students are attending will be individualized based on that student's need. That question has come up. If your child's in cohort A and they attend Monday, Tuesday, Thursday and Friday will not be the same instruction for your child if they opt for all 4. Mr. Oswald, just briefly, you had mentioned GIEPs. For those of you who aren't aware of that term, it's Gifted Individualized Education Plan. So your child has been evaluated and determined to be of gifted abilities and receives gifted services. At this time, they would not be attending all 4 days. We are extremely confident in our academically talented program teachers, as well as our classroom teachers, to differentiate for our students. Now, if there's a student who has a GIP who does need to check in person with a teacher, we're going to be flexible. We are going to make choices in the best interest of our students. But at this time, given what our ATP teachers are capable of doing, we do not need, our students with GIPs overall do not need to be in Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. And so, Mr. Oswald, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Monahan. I'm going to mute my video here so that he can share. I'm going to continue the slides for him, and he's going to share about Accelerate.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Ryan Monahan. I'm a ELA supervisor for K-12 for the district. And so the supervisors and our academic coaches have been working to integrate Accelerate education into our classrooms for the fall. So Accelerate is an online platform, and all of our students will be accessing Accelerate through Google Classroom. So one of the pieces of feedback we got in the spring was that different teachers were using different platforms. And so we tried to streamline that so everything is through Google Classroom and a Google Classroom login. So Accelerate uses the students' Google Classroom or Google account information. All courses follow the same model. So there's always an introduction when the students start the concept. There is direct instruction, and then there's opportunities for students to practice with supports, and then there's independent practice. So that by the time we get to an assessment, there is mastery, and we'll talk about what that looks like. So here's an example of the introduction. So the modules open up and it almost looks like a notebook, and you see little tabs on the left, and they have the course objectives. And the younger the levels are, the more you're going to see this little button here, which is a speaker, which actually reads what is on the screen for students. So you can imagine this is, I believe, a first grade example. So many of our first graders would not be able to read a text heavy page. So there's an audio that is provided for them. I believe it highlights as it reads. And then teachers and parents are able to monitor student progress. So you can see the date and the activities that the students are completing tasks. And over here, you can see when they started and when they finished and how long it took them. And so if, you know, a student took a long time on an assignment and didn't do well, that would be an opportunity for our teacher on that Wednesday to reteach and revisit those skills. Likewise, if we saw a student not do so well, but didn't take time to complete it, we could then have the student redo the assignment with the appropriate time. And I should mention some other highlights. Parents have the option for what's called a observer role. And so you can go in and see and monitor what students are doing and how they're progressing in their grades. You'll get weekly automated progress reports if you are signed up as the observer in Accelerate. And there's obviously online support beyond the teacher through the platform that we use. So I think, Ms. Seeley, that's the last slide. And so I will share my screen and I will pull up, I have a couple I'm just going to share my desktop and going to go into this one. Christine, Miss Seeley, could you just thumbs up if you can see my screen?
Yes.
Thank you. So when students log in through Google, this is their home page that the students will come to. And you'll see this, this is a student who is in 5th grade currently. We assigned him a few courses. When we just purchased this this month. And so the demo that was there for us to look at when we were previewing the content is still there. So that will be removed. So you can see the student is enrolled in beginning painting, language arts A, math A, and social studies. Obviously they would see science. And so the way the courses are designed, course A is the first half of the year. So you can imagine September through usually it's mid to late January, our semester, a halfway mark, those 90 days, that this course would be completed during those 90 days. So B would then be picked up in February through June. So when I click on a course, it'll open up for me. And as I said before, you're seeing the last activity that I viewed when I was showing parents last evening, this resource. And this is the course. Now you're seeing a list of resources and 6 modules. So in grades 4, 5, and 6, there are 6 modules over the course of the half year. So within each module, there are lessons that would be completed within about a 2 to 2.5 week time frame in order to pace that out for the school year. The student would not see all the modules or lessons at once because that would be too overwhelming. So when we push this out to our teachers, things will be hidden so only the teacher will see it, and then it will only be viewed once they've completed previous tasks. So just be mindful of that when you're looking at this. You'll see every course has a getting started. It has an about me quiz, which really is just about the student telling themselves about themselves to their teachers, like a getting to know you. A tutorial for what tools the students would need for this course, any software for audio. Typically in ELA, it's recording of students' oral reading, so teachers can monitor fluency, and then a materials list. And again, Accelerate has kind of packaged this. We are in the midst of modifying some of the content so that it fits for our teachers who are delivering the program. So if I just expand module 1, you'll see that there's an introduction lesson that would open up. So this is again grade 5. Here's that notebook I talked about. And here's the introduction of getting students into the first module to think about literature and how we talk about literature and books that we read. And you'll see there's on the tab here, there's a table of contents if you want to see the different lessons that are coming. There's also what's called a learning coach. So if I as a child or a parent wants to look at more information to get support, that is there for them. And again, gives the objectives and the skills that are needed. So if I go back to the beginning, just click on one of the other lessons. So here's where the student starts diving into characters, right? And reading about characters. And then there is a video that's just not displaying right away. That's, I think, because of where my office is. And when the student's ready to go on, they click on the arrow. And again, you can see the lesson progresses through a series of explanations. So I'm not going to go through all of these. We are going to be releasing some parent module, like we call them sandboxes, where parents will be able to go in and look at some of these resources. In fact, I'll just quickly show you what would be available to parents. So I just have a different browser for a different account. So you'll see the sandbox, the kind of practice account that we're going to be able to share with parents has many more courses for you to look at different levels and explore, so you can get a sense of the content. But again, when students take quizzes on these on this platform, they will be able, the teachers and the parents will be able to see student progress immediately, and to be able to step in and support however they can. One other thing that I want to mention, and I'm going to stop so that there's time, bulk of the time for questions. There is what's called a learning coach. So one of the videos that we're going to be able to post that we have gotten from this company explains the role of a learning coach. And in the self-paced version, where the parents are doing more of the monitoring, they refer to the parent as the learning coach. So the video that you're going to watch is not necessarily matched to how we will be using our this program. Our teachers are going to take more of that role with their students in the blended model. In fact, we will be incorporating the Accelerate education into the classroom, so that the students are familiar with how to navigate and what to do before they come home and need to use it in the home setting. And when you go to, and this link is going to be posted as well. You don't need an account for this. There's a ton of information for how-tos. If you want to look at specific curriculum, for example, you can open up kindergarten, and you can go into the different courses to see just what the content of the courses look like in language arts, math, science, and social studies. So that's available to everyone. So
wonderful. Dr. Monahan, I do have some questions that have come in, if now is a good time for you to entertain those.
Perfect.
Okay, wonderful. So some questions came in regarding the pacing of the modules. So in other words, what about students who might need a little bit more time or less time to complete those modules that you referred to?
So that's a great question. Students will have time if they need it. And so the schedule for what they're doing virtually when they're not in the classroom with the teacher accounts for them being able to have more time for, maybe they want to look at a lesson twice, or maybe they want to, take their time on a quiz. All of those things are there for students who may even need some accommodations, like, fewer choices on a multiple choice test. The teacher can set that up in the assessment for that student. We can have our special ed or our gifted teachers assigned to classrooms, so they can be a support and work within those classrooms to support the students that are on their caseloads. So that is absolutely there. But one thing I'll say about the pacing that I didn't already say is we have a group of teachers who are currently working to make sure that our pacing throughout the year is consistent, so that'll allow us, if a parent decides they want to go from the blended model to a full cyber model, that they could move into that cyber model and not have a disrupt, because the pacing is going to be fairly consistent, whether they're in person in the building or in cyber. Obviously, the blended option is we're picking essential lessons from our current curriculum to teach when the students are in front of us, and the Accelerate would be the supplement in the virtual setting.
Great. So Dr. Monahan, there were some questions in terms of which students will have access to Accelerate. Will it depend on which sort of instructional model they're using, cyber or the blended?
So all students in Owen J. Roberts School District whether that's the blended model or the cyber model, will have Accelerate accounts. It's just the amount that, the blended would be using may differ from that of the cyber model.
Great. And the last question that I'm seeing is around Google Classroom and how that may work in tandem with Accelerate.
So it's a single sign-on. So when students are in their Google Classroom and the link for Accelerate is in there, they will log right into Accelerate. But we are going to start in Google Classroom so that there's one kind of landing place. And that's where if a teacher needs to have a small group, they can set up a Hangout and have those students meet virtually. And I can tell you, we are currently doing both face-to-face and fully online Jumpstart program for our summer. And our teachers are meeting live with students in Jumpstart and doing live guided reading sessions with their students. And so we are going to be able to replicate that approach and fine tune it for the fall.
Wonderful. Thank you, Dr. Monahan. So just being mindful of time, we do want to end at 12:30, and we do know that we want to entertain some questions at the end. So I think with that, we'll transition back to Ms. Seeley.
Thank you, Mr. Oswald. What other questions are you seeing as themes in the chat?
Sure. So a few questions have come up regarding masks. And would kindergarten students be required to wear masks? How about face shields? So some questions around that.
Great. It's a great question. And so yes, according to the current guidelines from the Chester County Department of Health, all persons inside of a building, if they are inside of a building, must wear a face covering. The word is face covering. So that could be a mask, it could be a face shield, it could be a combination. So yes, all staff, all students must wear a face covering. When we're outside, according to the Chester County Department of Health, if you are able to distance at least 6 feet, then you can remove your face covering.
Okay, thank you. And we also had some questions that have come up regarding childcare. And Owen J. Roberts uses a Child's Place for that. So some parents are just asking in terms of if we have any updates or if we know that Child's Place will or will not be providing childcare.
So the district is currently in discussion with the CEO of A Child's Place. We're looking to determine if we can partner with them to provide any level of childcare services, whether it be kindergarten enrichment for the AM or PM and or before and after care. We will do our best to meet the needs of our families, but still following the district's health and safety plan guidelines.
Excellent, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And if we could just go back to the face coverings as well, I think it's probably important to note, Ms. Seeley and families, that we understand even as adults, we need masks breaks.
Mm-hmm.
And so those types of things would naturally be built into the students' day. Wouldn't necessarily be represented on a schedule, but we'll give students those opportunities for mask breaks. Did you want to add anything, Ms. Seeley, to that?
No, I think that captured that mask break pretty well. We're all working on this together. We're all in this together, staff and students alike, myself included. I'm building up my collection of masks as we speak, Mr. Oswald, as I'm sure you are as well. And we're getting used to it. So if a student or a staff member need to take a mask break, they will do so in a safe way.
Excellent, good. Okay, some themes and questions around technology, particularly will the district be handling distribution of technology for all students? And then also some questions around technology regarding Accelerate. What type of technology, if any, is recommended for Accelerate?
Okay, so great questions. So the district at the elementary level is not at this time planning to distribute devices to every student. However, if your child or your family has a specific need, you do not have the opportunity to either purchase an iPad or a laptop, or you cannot, then contact your child's principal, and we will do our best to work with you and the technology department to secure devices. Otherwise, it is our hope that families will be able to provide some sort of device. I said iPads or say Chromebooks or laptops because the tech specifications for Accelerate, it is web-based. So you can use any sort of device that is web-based. It doesn't have to be something that enables Flash, for example, and we can certainly share the file with you on our technology specifications.
Okay. Excellent. And I am seeing a number of questions, particularly around sanitizing and things like that. The distance between tables and, those items would be represented on our health and safety plan, which I know is part of our district website, that folks could use that to review those specific questions. So just for the sake of our discussion, we're going to keep our topics kind of revolving around the instructional piece, but all of those are good questions. And if you'd like to learn more about the health and safety plan regarding those specific questions, I'd refer you to the district website. Ms. Seeley, another question that has come up is particularly around how the district plans to help our students become familiar with Accelerate. So those would be the students, particularly as we're talking about the blended plan. So how do we get students familiar with that? And maybe Dr. Monahan can also join that conversation.
Sure.
I got this.
Go ahead.
So the plan is really to introduce students to Accelerate when they're in the classroom on those 2 days. So that is, we wouldn't be putting that, on, the parents. And if for some reason we were fully online for the start of the year, we would have teachers hosting live sessions to help the students do that.
Mm-hmm.
And there are, the one thing that's really great about this program, the how-to videos and the getting started are extremely helpful, and lays everything out very succinctly for the student.
Okay, excellent. Question has come up about registering for the blended option. And really, in essence, that is the program that we are going to be offering. And so there is no option that anyone would need to elect to be part of the blended. What you would need to choose would be if you would like your child in the 100% cyber academy. That would be what you would be making the choice on. Otherwise, your child would be in the blended plan. Ms. Seeley, I have a question that has come up, particularly around the idea of schedule. And perhaps you and Dr. Monahan could sort of go back to what the students would be doing who would be in that group that is receiving their instruction at home, what their typical day might look like.
Sure. And so I'm going to share my screen, and hopefully it's the right screen for all of you. Let's see here. So Dr. Monahan, can you give me a thumbs up? Can you see the elementary blended plan? Can you see it in larger size now?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. And so when they, suppose your child is in cohort A, so they're attending on Monday, Tuesday. When they're at home on Wednesday, we are working out specifics of a schedule, but you can expect that your child will have live instruction. So at some point during the day, or maybe a couple points, they are potentially engaging in a classroom meeting. They may be working, maybe it could be a whole group lesson if the teacher feels as though everyone would benefit from a whole group. They may be working in small group, they may be working individually. And again, they could be working with their classroom teacher, but they could be working with another type of teacher or even a paraprofessional as well. The rest of their day, they would be working independently on district provided materials. I don't know if you mentioned, Dr. Monahan, I apologize. They could be working, say, on workbooks or paper or printed materials as well that coincide with Accelerate or even our other district programming. Thursday and Friday, again, they would be checking in with their teacher for, say, 20 to 30 minutes twice a day for a classroom meeting. The rest of the day would be asynchronous, again, meaning that they're working on work independently. And so our teachers and our supervisors, our teacher leaders and supervisors are working very closely together to make sure that we are planning for instruction that will challenge our students and is grade level appropriate, but also some work that they can do independently, because we do know that parents will need to help, but some parents may not be able to help all day. Dr. Monahan?
Yeah, and when we share out the Learning Coach resources, they give a suggested typical day, and we certainly don't want our students spending 6 hours, 6.5 hours, which is what their in-class day is typically. We don't want them sitting in front of a computer for that length of time. So we certainly would be looking to create a schedule that would also build in natural breaks and transitions for the students. And then Ms. Seeley mentioned we are purchasing physical workbooks for the K-2 students. And then the 3 through 6 students would be using editable PDFs that are right in the course itself. And so again, our teachers would be working with our students in class to teach them how to do that, so that it's easy for them.
Mr. Oswald, we have about 10 minutes or so left, so I'm sure there's other questions.
There are. Yep. And so there were some questions in terms of families who will be having their students in the blended, and paying respect to multiple students. Will all students in the same family, in essence, be attending on the same days?
Yes. So again, we are looking to group our students into a group A and B by the student's last name. Now, if your children have different last names, we would go with the oldest student and their last name and group them accordingly. Now, we do know that we are going to need to make individual decisions by building. So if, for example, you have a niece or a nephew who also attend and you're working either all together, then you would contact your child's principal and see if we can make accommodations for them to also attend with your children, despite the fact that they may have different last names.
Good. And Ms. Seeley, could you speak to how that might play out with any families who have students in the secondary level as well?
Yeah, so we're looking to group all of our students similarly. So again, if there's an accommodation that needs to be made, the principals are really looking to have you have the most successful experience for your child, as well as to be as flexible as possible while still following our physical safety guidelines, of course.
Okay, excellent. And some questions, Ms. Seeley, have come up, particularly around the teachers. And if a student is in the blended model, who will their teachers be in the blended model?
Great question. So I'm going to use East Vincent because that's where I'm principal, and give it a little bit of a concrete picture for you. So if your child is in second grade, for example, and their teacher is Mr. Famous, and you have opted for blended model, so that means that they are in person 2 days a week. So again, if they're in group A on Monday and Tuesday, they're with Mr. Famous in person. On Wednesday, Mr. Famous in some way, shape, or form is meeting with your student and his or her classmates synchronously, that live piece. And then he's assigning independent work for part of the day on Wednesday, as well as remote learning online on Thursday and Friday. And so while he will be checking in live with your child on Thursday and Friday, say for classroom meeting, he will not be providing live instruction because he will need to be teaching the students who are with him in group B. And so it's important to realize that your child would have Mr. Famous Monday through Friday, but some of it will be in person and some of it will be home. Some of it will be synchronous, some of it will be asynchronous. Your child on those days when they are not in person will not change to a different teacher. They still maintain their same teacher. It's important to note, because this question came up too yesterday, Mr. Oswald, when we had our session. If for some reason the governor says we need to go in the red phase, which means that everyone is at home, then that basically means if you are still in blended, your child will still stay with Mr. Famous and your child will still stay with his or her classmates. They will not all of a sudden be changed to a cyber teacher. It basically means that our teachers and staff and students will basically take everything that they had together in a group and just transition it to the home environment. I just want to be mindful. We have about 5 minutes left, Mr. Oswald. What else do you have?
Yes. So some questions came up as far as a student who is in the blended model, who, for whatever reason, needs to be absent for several days, whether it's due to a quarantine issue or whether it's due to, let's say, more of a traditional absence because of illness. Who would be providing instruction for that child?
It's a great question. So it depends on how long the student is absent. So for example, if the child's absent for a day or two, for whatever reason, it's not COVID related, they would still have Mr. Famous as their teacher. If they need to quarantine for a period of 14 days or even more, then if we know that child is going to be out for a prolonged period of time, then they would either temporarily or for a longer period of time, even maybe permanently, if the family so chooses, switch over to the cyber teacher or teachers that are part of our cyber program. All children, and I don't think we said this, Mr. Oswald, all students who choose who are here in the Cyber Academy, or if you had to move to that, would be dually enrolled. So for example, using that, what you said, where a student is out, say, for 14 days, they would go on the Cyber Academy teachers roster, but they would still be attributed to the home school. So in that case, they would still get emails from me as the principal, but we would still be in touch. It's not like they're moving to a different school setting, if that makes sense.
It does, absolutely. Okay, so I'm going to switch back to Dr. Monahan since this question came up regarding Accelerate and also the in-person learning, particularly around assessment. So questions have come up. Are there assessments that are built into Accelerate? And when the student is in front of the teacher, would that also be the platform for students to complete their assessments, or would there be potential other assessments that the students would be given?
So there are assessments built right in to the modules. So typically there's a lesson that's followed by a quiz, so that teachers are getting that formative check early and not waiting till the end of the module to figure out if the students are getting it or not. So we would be relying on that, and the teachers will have a dashboard to see the performance of individual students as well as the class, so that they could potentially do some group work with them, both when they're in the class, obviously physically distant, or online. And so we probably would be looking at potentially using some in-class assessments as well, like, at Fountas and Pinnell reading level. And so, those will exist. We just won't have, we probably won't do the amount of testing in the in-person setting. Again, as our teachers are working right now to map out our curriculum, that will be finalized as we approach the school year. The good thing that Accelerate can also do for us with their assessments is start to give us a sense of, what was the learning loss, last spring through summer of not being physically in school. So we will be using that assessment.
Excellent. Thank you, Dr. Monahan. So just a few concluding thoughts as we draw close to the end of our morning session. There were a number of questions regarding cyber, and we would invite parents who are considering that option to join us today would be the next session. I believe that's at 1 o'clock. So that's where we'll focus a bit more on those specific questions around cyber. The other thing I think it's important for families to note is, the questions that you're asking provide us with good feedback. So we are listening to that feedback and utilizing that feedback as we plan for what are those questions you're asking and what additional items of information are you looking for. And then last, I did put this in the chat feature a little earlier. The school board will be further discussing the options for the instructional programs. We know at this point that the OJR Cyber Academy will be offered, but there will be a bit more further discussion this evening as far as the other instructional options, including the blended plan. So that meeting takes place tonight if you'd like to join in and listen. So at this point, I'm going to just touch base with Ms. Seeley one more time. Ms. Seeley, we appreciate you kind of leading us through this discussion. Any other concluding thoughts that you'd like to leave our audience with?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Oswald. And families, thank you so much for joining us. We are in this together. We want the same as you do. We really care about your children. We care about our staff. We want everyone to be safe and healthy. But yet we still want to provide the robust instruction and education that we have come to expect in Owen J. Roberts School District. The great part of this is that no matter which plan you choose, blended or cyber, you will still be working with our amazing Owen J. Roberts teachers. And so that's so important to remember. I did put in the chat the technical specifications if you're looking to purchase a device or check to see if your device works. And as always, please reach out to your child's elementary principal if you have additional questions. Thank you so much for joining us. And if you are interested in the Cyber Academy presentation, we'll see you back here at 1 o'clock. We will be posting frequently asked questions to the website, and this meeting is recorded, so you'll be able to see it on our web pages within 24 hours. Have a good day, everyone.